Hey. This is the Mala Asafa, and this is the Hear Me, Follow Him podcast. Again, it's the Hear Me, Follow Him podcast. My name is the Mala Asafa. Man, it's a beautiful day out here, man. It's only March, but I don't care what you say. Spring has sprung. I think we turn the clocks forward March the 10th, which is just what, a week from now. We're going to start having that late sunshine into the evening. It's a beautiful thing. It's kind of crazy how we go through a winter. This winter wasn't too bad, by the way, but we go through a harsh winter. And it's sort of in preparation for the days like this. Like even the birds are back. There's robins, blue jays, all that good jazz. They went through the hard preparation of the fall to go through the winter. And now spring is here and the activity is just beautiful, from all the whistling. You see them building nests, fighting each other, trying to find love, all that jazz. But God is good, man. Everything happens in its own season. And a lot of times you have to go through a preparation before that season occurs. Like the worst thing is when an opportunity just approaches you, and an opportunity arises, a good one, but you weren't prepared because you'll fumble that. And vice versa. It's like being prepared for an opportunity that never comes. Like that's awful too. Don't start making VCRs now. That era is over, right? That opportunity will not come. But with that, I want to transition and tell a story and kind of show how God uses a season and a time in your life for preparation. So this story is actually pretty cool, man. It starts with a field trip. Like that's one of the things I loved the most in school was a good old field trip. Like we didn't take a lot of vacations when I was younger. I spent a lot of my summers right there in the house and in the neighborhood. So like to get cultured and to travel, those field trips were everything to me. And this one was awesome. I was in a long legal class. I was 15 years old, so it would have been the summer of night, or it would have been the fall of '97 that we went on this trip to Mount Olive Prison. It was a long legal class. Loved the class, loved the teacher, loved everything about it. It had to do with the law of obviously some of your rights and how some of them were established. But we were taking a trip to a prison. I think it was about 3 hours away, Mount Olive from Charleston, West Virginia. So we get on a bus and everything is all good. And when we're going in, beep 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 beep, one of the kids sets off the metal detectors. I won't say the kid's name, but he sets off the metal detectors and they pull him to the side and do a little pat and frisk. Bam, they pull out a pack of Marlboro Reds. Like, how are you going to go to the prison and bring some cigarettes underage? Like, everything about it was like illegal and dumb. So he gets busted and everybody's laughing. But, I hung out with the kid for the rest of that day because I was just laughing so hard. Like, bro, I about said his name. I'm like, how do you bring cigarettes into the prison? And so we're going through the prison, meeting all, going through the different phases, as I recall. And some kid like had an altercation. And I talked to somebody who remembers this. He had an altercation with the guards because he had a Confederate flag chain on. And he felt like it was his right to keep it on. But the guards like, yo, that might incite some of the prisoners. So there was another kerfuffle on that field trip. But the part that sticks out to me, man, it is so funny. We're going through the day, right? And I'm hanging out with the guy who brought the cigarettes. I'm just beside him and we're chit-chatting all day long. And we get to this part where this big muscle bound dude, I mean muscles upon muscles. He's probably 6'4", 270, ripped. I'm like, did they have Planet Fitness in the back of Mount? Like, what supplements was he getting in prison? Because how can you be this large? But he's making a beeline towards us, like walking, and everybody's like parting the Red Sea for this dude. And I'm looking to the left and the right. He looks like he's coming towards me and this kid. And he does. And he gets in the dude's face and starts going ballistic. You think you're this? You think you're that? You think you're this? Tough, bringing in cigarettes. And I'm giggling beside him. But as I'm giggling, I look over and I see the teacher that's with us, and it looks like she's kind of motioning like her head towards me. And the inmate stops going in on the boy and starts going in on me. But before I get to what happened when he was going in on me, let me backtrack and give some a little foundation to this story. Like it really started in that summer of that year. We weren't in school. The craziest thing happened. Two associates of mine, let me say, got into some real serious trouble, doing some real serious stuff, and they got arrested. And they must have name dropped me. I never thought of it that way back in the day, but somehow my name got involved in it, even though I was not there, and arrested. And I found out that I had caught charges via the mail. So I get a mail that's saying, blah, 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 you caught this one count of this. And I'm like, what the heck? I was never there. I was never arrested. So what the heck is this all about? I go down there and they give me a public defender and all this stuff and tell me a court date is coming. I don't think nothing of it. You talk to people in the streets and everybody's a lawyer. Everybody knows what you should do. So I'm just like fielding and getting advice from people like, what the heck? I wasn't arrested. How can you catch charges in the freaking mail? And, some people was like, yeah, that can happen. You can get indicted. And I'm learning all these new terms that I didn't know about in the legal system. And then the school year starts, and awesome, I'm taking this law and legal class. So I'm going through the legal system in a weird way, and I'm taking a law and legal class. You can't make this stuff up. It was just like, hey, so I got a real interest in this class. I'm asking all the questions and reading all the books and all of that. So I got a public defender. I'm like, cool. And for those who don't know, there's only one building on the Charleston side of the river, right next to Haddad Riverfront Park. Right on that river, you have the Haddad Riverfront Park. There is a brick building beside it, about 4 to 5 stories. It is the only building on that side of the river. All the hotels, the mall, the civic center is across the street. And that is the public defender's building. If you've ever caught a charge and a lawyer was appointed to you because you couldn't afford one, as the Miranda rights says, that is your building right there. So quickly, I learned a phone number and I'm calling all the time. And I guess I can name drop her name, my public defender. Her name was Teresa Chisholm. She was, in my eyes, she was an older African American lady. She was probably like in her 30s, but I was so young, I thought she was probably 80 years old. You know how that goes. But Teresa Chisholm. So I'm calling like, hey, look, I got this letter in the mail. I leave voicemails. I could barely get a hold of her. One time I got a hold of her, it was sort of like I had 2 minutes and she's like, yeah, y'all just come to this court case and we'll sort everything out. So I didn't feel like my public defender was defending, and I'm in a law and legal class. So I'm going to take measures into my own hands. And so this is back in the day. And this is how I thought when I was 15. I looked up the phone book, found her name, and found out that she didn't live that far from me. Like, I still remember her phone number. Till this day, I can recite it. The last 4 digits is 3 4s. I'm not gonna go ahead and spill the beans on everything else, but she lived really close to me. So I would literally like walk around where the address that it said in the phone book and call her nonstop, leaving messages about my case. All of a sudden, like a month goes by and I'm still in this long legal class, going to school, having fun. I get a letter that says, hey, you could plea bargain for 6 months of home confinement. And she's like, hey, look, I got this deal for you. And I'm like, what do you mean this deal for me? I was not arrested. I think I want to go over here and fight this thing. I should be able to walk away scot-free. So, okay, she's like, okay, okay. I'm calling her again all the time at home, in the office. She's not responding to me. I get a letter again, like a month later. Hey, if you'll take a plea bargain for 3 months of home confinement. I'm looking at the, no way, man. I'm telling you, look, you're my public defender. That's not defending. We're gonna go to this thing, and I'm gonna be exonerated, like in the 15-year-old machismo. Like it's crazy that I thought like this. And here's another caveat. I never got my parents involved in any of this unless I had to. And I don't know how I was able to maneuver all this, but I was able to do all of this without my parents. Because that was my thing. Like, if I came to them, I wanted to come with, hey, look, I'm at my wit's end. I've tried A, B, C, D, and G. I need your help. So just tell me what to do, punish me, but I got to solve this. And I need you now. I never came to them like empty handed, like, oh, help me. I know nothing. I need you to be all. So I'm maneuvering all this by myself. Like, if my parents heard this, it'd be the first time that they knew that all this was going on while I was in school. So yeah, I get one for 3 months. I'm like, no, we're fighting. So my court case was like was gonna be 3 weeks from that point. About 3 days before the actual court case, like, I was ready. I was gonna go in there, Rocky Balboa, win this case, yada 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 yada. I got one in the mail that said 1 month of home confinement for a plea bargain. And so I was talking around to people because, I had bravado, but I was a little bit nervous too. I've seen enough movies where you can get railroaded and thrown to the wolves. So I'm talking to folk, and they're like, "Man, you might want to take that plea bargain, man. You never know what happens when you go in there." And so I started getting nervous. I thought I could win. I took the plea bargain. I did. I'm like, I'll take a month because in talking to one of my friends, and this is kind of crazy how this happened. There, I was told that like with home confinement, if you had a job, you can leave, or if you were babysitting somebody, you can leave for those set amount of periods of time. So for that month, I was gonna be in school. That wasn't gonna be bad. And so when I got home, I set it up to where I tutored and babysat one of my best friends' two sisters. And so for 3 days a week while I was on home confinement, I was allowed out for 3 hours to go babysit at my homeboy's house. So I'm like, okay, I could ride out this month doing that. It just so happened too that during the field trip, I was on home confinement to Mount Olive. I also set off the metal detectors when I walked through, and I was not proud of it. I know I tell these stories sometimes with gustos, but I was really ashamed of it because I'm like, what in the world? I mean, what the heck is going on with me? Because I was an intelligent kid. I loved school. I thought I was personable. Thought I was a nice guy, like I said. But hey, look, I'm on home confinement visiting a prison. And I'm going to bring us back to where I left off in the story. That's why she was motioning for the guy to like talk to me. Because as the muscle bound dude was going off on my friend beside me, he mentioned this. He was like, "You think you're so tough? You think you're on home confinement now? We will eat you up." And from that point on, like he came in my face and then started trying to say that same stuff. But the steam was gone. I was already laughing. And so he got in my face and did yeah, you think you're a tough guy? Let me see that ankle bracelet. But he was smirking and laughing, and I was smirking and laughing too. But it was funny, but not funny. You know what I mean? Ha ha ha, but it was really serious. I was on a disastrous path. Although in my head at 15, it felt like, oh man, everything was orchestrated. It was all prepared for me to catch this and then take this class and scuttle through it. I maneuvered through it with the home confinement. Bam, I did that month. I mean, we're all even. We're all equal here, but it wasn't. It wasn't. I felt like I was being prepared, but I was being prepared for things that I didn't know would come. That long legal in that moment that guy was in my face. That things. What I'm trying to say, things later on in life, that very event that happened, the fact that I thought it was all fun and games and laughing, but then I realized how serious some of the situations were. But I had walked through this in a home confinement and a punishment that I felt that, hey, I basically skated. Because here's the truth, like I was not guilty in that particular instance, but there's plenty of other instances where I was guilty and got away. So although I wasn't guilty in this one that I was trying to fight, there definitely times that I was guilty. But that's what God does in life to try to transition this back to the gospel, because this is the Hear Me, Follow Him podcast. I don't want it to get too lost in these stories till it sounds like it's entertaining. All of those times were just a time of preparation. It was a lot of stuff that I had to face by myself without my parents. I mean, I was 15, but I was operating as a grown man. In the middle of it, it sounds like it's all fun and games, but there's a lot of tears that I shed. There's a lot of why me's. There was a lot of what the heck is going on. And there was a lot of roll up your sleeves and fight and get perseverance and keep moving through. There was a point there that I thought I was like the only person on earth that was going through this stuff. But you open up your eyes and it's like, man, thousands, if not millions, can share a similar story or an experience that they had that was like, oh my gosh, it's like, why am I going through this so young? And what the heck in the world, what is it preparing me for? One story in the Bible of one person who thought he was all alone like that. To preface this, to change this up, is the story of Elijah. Elijah was a prophet, and there was a drought that came on in his land in the time of kings. And so for 3.5 years, it didn't rain until he was supposed to meet a king, Ahab of Israel. So he meets this king, and they basically have a battle. Basically, Elijah's like, I'm going to call on the God of Israel, and you guys call on your God, and let's see whose God is more dominant. They do all their chanting and all their good stuff. Their God doesn't come. Elijah is mocking them. Elijah sets up a little thing, an altar, and burns some water and puts some calves on it. And God responds by sending fire down on the earth. And all of the other false prophets of the other gods are then all killed. But after that, like, there has to be a price to pay for that. Ahab's wife is like, look, he killed all the prophets of our God. I am going to go after and kill this man. And Elijah actually runs in fear and starts stating words like, out of all of your people, Lord, I am the only one that is left. They're going to kill everybody. And God reminds him that, look, I have thousands of people just like you who have not bowed their knee to the other God. And as I was going through stuff, like, I thought my experience was so unique. Nobody else can feel my pain. But a lot of people were going through it. I was just isolated in my own. And growing up, like, the knowledge that preparation feels like it's given me of going through that stuff young is, I see people who are going through it now. And I could speak and edify some words to them like, yo, it's not all over. It's just part of the preparation and the process. Winter must come. You know what I mean? You do got to go through a hard patch when it's cold, but spring is coming, right? The dawn is coming, and it's a beautiful thing with God like that. All the things that we go through, that we experience on a fleshly level, you could get all ticked off. Like, man, why am I going through the legal system? Why is school like a jail system for me? Why are they always picking on me? Not really looking at our part in it, but just looking at some of the things we go through and like, what is this for? It's to fight. It's to make sure they don't get, no, in God's world, it's to prepare you. Uh, Moses, right? He had to wait 40 years before he made his next move. Those 40 years were not idle times. There were times of preparation. We don't hear much about Jesus from the time when he was 12 to 30, but I'm sure he went through some things, right? Those times are not idle times. They're times for preparation. All the experiences, the good and the bad, if you don't think you'll find meaning in it in the future for God, then it's all for naught. And you'll roll up your sleeves and just simply fight. But all of those experiences add up to actually bring him glory in the end, because knowing the going through the legal system that I did and going through it and being resourceful in a way of learning how it all worked, it literally helped me get through college, because I was on my own and I saw people who floundered and didn't have that skill yet of how to balance life or be resourceful and find things of their own. If you had a great support system, I mean, thumbs up. You know what I mean? If you had a family that footed the financial means so you could just use your brain and go to school, thumbs up. But if you didn't, you had to learn how to maneuver. Those past experiences helped me maneuver and become a better man than I was as a boy. But God is good, man. And all the things that we go through, whether good or bad, I mean, the world will give you check marks and grades on them. Like, after that incident, really before that incident, I knew I could no longer be president of the United States. Like, I was disqualified. They tell you that as a kid, right? Like, you got a permanent record and you can be the president of the United States. Well, that thing on my foot. Well, Donald Trump might have saved the day because of DT. I do still have a chance, maybe. I don't know. But I felt back then, there goes my shot. My permanent record is done. But not so with God. It's just experiences and preparation that you'll be able to use to further glorify his name. And it leads to a better life for you. So, I mean, I felt like I was kind of rambling there. But come on, give me some comments, feedback. Let me know what you think. Subscribe, follow. I love you guys. This is the Hear Me, Follow Him podcast. Ciao.